One of my favorite things to do at the end of an appointment, they've closed the deal. I want to leave them on a high note so that as I leave, they're stoked that they made the decision to buy windows with us. And I'll always say, hey, one of my favorite things is when the windows get installed is when a customer reaches out to me and sends me a picture or says how happy they are or whatever. And I get that a lot. And so customers will get their windows installed and they'll reach out and be like, Hunter, these windows look so great. I think just last week I had like a 90-year-old dude and he calls me and he's just like, I'm not cold anymore.
I'm not cold anymore.
So I love that kind of feedback.
Welcome everybody out to the DDD podcast. We got a special Windows edition of the Golden Door Deep Dive featuring the one and only Hunter Wilson. Dude, how's it going?
Dude, it's going awesome, man.
Dude,
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, trekking from the great heights of Ogden, Utah to be with us in Sandy right now. Yeah. So appreciate you coming down, my man.
Absolutely, dude.
How's it been going, dude? You're riding high off of a big year.
Yeah, it's been awesome, dude. It's awesome to see a lot of success and just kind of ride the wave off of that for sure.
I love that. So Windows is an interesting industry. If I'm being honest, I've been involved in door-to-door for the last 5 years, and I haven't heard too much about Windows, but it is actually a booming industry.
It's popping off. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Really cool to see. There were just as many golden doors for Windows as there was solar this year.
Yeah.
Neck and neck. It was kind of crazy to see that. So I want to dive in first because there's a lot of people listening across multiple industries. There's pest, alarm, solar.
Right.
Explain what's the Windows industry exactly?
Yeah. So we do obviously residential replacement windows, super high end. So a lot of our pitch goes into the energy efficiency of homes, the appreciation of homes, adding product value. So there's a lot of extra features that go into the windows that just kind of upgrade the people's lifestyle even. So for the neat niche the window fills is that for most people it's a necessity. You can't get
Who's not going to have a window?
You can't get away from not having windows.
You're gonna put a cardboard box up.
Exactly. And the unfortunate truth is that for most of the world, and especially in America, your windows aren't going to last very long with what came with the home. So the necessity comes in place where once your home's X amount of years old, you're going to absolutely be having window issues. And we get to fill that niche where we get to come in and say, hey, why don't you get the highest quality product at a discounted rate? So it works extremely well.
Yeah, that's a really great problem to expose. Because if I'm being honest, I wouldn't think about it if I was a homeowner.
Yeah.
Unless a window broke or something like that. You don't really think about.
Yeah.
So what is it about older windows that make them less efficient?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that go into that. I mean, I can get into the technicalities that we go over when we're closing, but one of the more basic points is the energy efficiency aspect. So a lot of people are losing, it's winter right now, obviously. It's real cold outside, it's real warm inside. A lot of people are getting the cold into the house and they're constantly losing heat all day. So us getting the new windows in for them really increases the insulation value there. And now their furnace isn't running as long, the heat's not escaping, cold's not coming in, kids are sleeping better at night, wife's happy.
Gotcha. So are they typically on a financing plan? Is insurance paying for it?
I mean, it's a 60-40. We don't have insurance involved very often. It's probably 60-40 with people who just write us a check for the whole project versus people who will sign up for different financing options.
Gotcha. And how much do the financing options typically run people? I know it's probably there are a lot of variables to that. That's a very big question.
Not as many as solar. But it just depends. I mean, some projects, you get small projects that are anywhere from $9,000 or $10,000 to one of the largest projects I've ever personally seen was $82,000.
Wow.
For just the one home.
Wow. So, what's the square footage of a house that's paying $82,000 for all the windows?
Yeah, I mean, it's less based off square footage. I think that house had 60 windows. So, I mean, you can imagine it's probably a 10,000 square foot home.
Yeah, it's a big old mansion.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just depending on what type of windows, what color they want the windows.
Yeah. So do you guys do tinting and things like that as well?
Yeah, there's some options for that. All of our windows come with a standard. It's called a low E film that decreases the amount of UV coming into the home. So the home isn't heating up from the sun, which is huge for the summer.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it comes with that, but people have all sorts of, aesthetic options when it comes to the color, the tint, if you would like it, privacy options for bathrooms, all sorts of different kind of variables.
So that's kind of cool. So there is it's not Don't get me wrong, love solar, but there's one item on that menu.
Yeah.
That's solar panels.
How many do you need and where are we going to put them, right?
Yeah, and that was kind of the fun thing. I sold alarms, so it was like, that was the fun thing about that. It was like, oh, well, how many cameras do you want? Where do you want it? It's very customizable. So it sounds like Windows is kind of like that too, where it's like, it's one basic product, but it's very like customizable to the person.
Well, and the fun part is, and we can get into maybe tips and tricks later, but one of the biggest things that's made me super successful is that I was going like, and I want them to feel like I'm a contractor, not a salesman. So I'm in their house and I'm, just saying things how they are. I'm being honest with them. I'm making suggestions on what would be best for them or what I would do if their home was my home. And there's a lot of different tips and tricks and salesman like things that I do. And there's a lot of ways that I portray information so that they're thinking a certain way. But the energy I always wanted homeowners to feel was that I was a contractor that had their best interest in mind. And so it just makes it really easy when you walk in there and you immediately gain trust. And then as you're making suggestions, they get in the habit of saying yes. And then you present the price and it's just a no-brainer for them. And then they say yes one more time and you're there.
There we go. What's like the biggest pushback?
It varies. I mean, there's homeowners who think they can do it themselves and save money, right? It's just pest control. Here's the same thing all the time, I'm sure. There's people who think they can do it themselves, but they don't have access to the quality of window that we sell.
Yeah. It's one thing. You can't really go to Home Depot. No. Honestly, that sounds like such a pain.
Exactly. Or even if you do go to Home Depot, now you're dealing with a lower quality product. It ends up being not that dissimilar in pricing to where we're at. And now you're figuring out an install, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of value provided there. There's pushback on price occasionally. Some people are used to when windows were $100 a piece 35 years ago. And then you're in their house telling them it's not that cheap anymore.
Yeah.
And so, there's some price pushback, which is all overcomable too.
Yeah, for sure. So what's kind of like the pitch like? What are you talking to? Like, what are the main pain points you're bringing up early on?
Yeah, pain points don't get brought up for a minute. On the door approach, what we're doing is we're going around, we're saying, hey, we'd love to use you essentially as a model home, an advertising home. We'd like to have our sign in your yard. We'll take photos. We'll compare how the energy efficiency works for you a year after the fact. We'll get a review from you, essentially helping our company as an advertising home. And then for doing so, we absorb all the cost of labor and install. So we're not charging them for labor, which is a big hook. I mean, it's a good point for homeowners to be like, wow, I don't have to pay for that, right? And then a discount on the windows as well. And for doing those things for us, they end up getting a sizable discount on what they would typically pay with some competitors that just charge retail prices. So a lot of our pitch is, hey, help us as an advertising home. We'll help you on the cost. We get in there, and then the rest of it's just providing value.
Totally.
Right? It's the things we just talked about. Your energy efficiency, the aesthetics of your home, the appreciation of your home. A lot of wives get really excited about some of the cleaning features on the windows, some safety features for the kids, just things like that.
Yeah, totally. Obviously it's a give and take. It's like, hey, if you can do this for me, like what's in it for you, what's in it for me.
Absolutely.
So that way it makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's legitimate competitors who are spending so much money in the usual way to sell windows, which is the magazines, TV spots, radio, billboards, like all the different ways that they advertise. They've got so much more overhead, they can't compete with our cost. So I'll go into a home, and if that competitor would charge 45 grand, we're going to be 25, right? So it makes it pretty easy for homeowners to see that and be like, if I want this quality window, I'd usually have to pay this price, but I come in and say it's here. It becomes a no-brainer for them.
Totally. Are you mostly knocking in Utah then, or whereabouts?
Yeah, I've only been in Utah. I've done a couple blitzes kind of elsewhere. A fun fact we can get into later, I'll be heading out to Dallas.
Oh, nice.
Come May or June. So where my family's from, so I'll be opening an office of the company out there.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. Official announcement.
Official announcement.
He's leaving us. But talk to me about market saturation a little bit. Are you seeing a ton of competition, or what does that look like?
Yeah, we have a couple competitors who are also knocking door to door. There's obviously also all the competitors who don't do any sort of door to door. They just do the things that we talked about.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been in a couple of the other door-to-door industries just for brief periods, and the saturation there is so much worse that it doesn't really affect us in the window industry.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've never seen a window guy knock on my door.
Really?
So, yeah, but nonetheless, it is a no-brainer product in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Especially after hearing you talk about it. Big win-win for everyone. So
Yeah.
Now that we kind of have like established, like, for those who aren't in Windows exactly what the industry really entails. Now let's kind of talk to the people that are in Windows.
Sure.
So like, let's maybe like build out a plan. What's the golden door blueprint for them?
The golden door blueprint is, there's people who can do it, not just being as knockers, but we have a similar setup to solar where there's a setter position and a closer position. Mm-hmm. You're always no matter what, you're gonna make more money as the closer essentially. So obviously that's gonna be the incentive for a lot of people. Because no matter how many appointments you set as a knocker, as a closer, you can run appointments all day long, right? Mm-hmm. So you got some other people feeding you some appointments, yourself setting your own. But the blueprint there is going to be, you got to work really hard knocking doors, obviously. You got to get really good at working with people. Building trust is a huge thing. I think it's something that if you're able to build trust with strangers extremely quickly, again, people trust me that I'm the contractor in their home telling them what to do with windows. And that when I say something is the best price, it really is that way. Mm-hmm. So a big thing is going to be like constantly improving. I recently became the market owner of my office, so I'm no longer as involved with the sales side of things. I more so manage all the teams, and I manage the install crews and the recruiting department and all those things. But even a couple of days before I realized that I was going to become the market owner, I was still diagnosing how I did in some of my appointments that week, maybe some little things I could tweak or do better in that sense. And so it's just the constant self-improvement, and then just honestly working hard. It's going to be the huge thing.
Yeah. What's funny about Windows, most of the Windows guys I've talked to, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I was just working and my manager was like, oh, hey, by the way, you hit golden door. Like, it's kind of easy to like blink and you miss it.
It's a lofty goal. I actually ended up hitting it in like July. So I hit it a long time ago.
Yeah.
I had a really good couple months where I just worked long and hard every day, and I had the goal set on buying a house, obviously, which is happening in Texas. And,
nice.
I got married a little bit ago. Me and my wife were excited for things like that. And so I set some lofty goals as far as what I would do to be financially prosperous. And I just knew that if I worked hard, I'd get there. And so it was actually pretty cool. Just in a couple months, I broke one of my own personal records for revenue and how many deals I sold. And then I broke it again the next month and again the next month. And in just 3 months, I think I sold 1.3 million in windows in just 3 months.
Jeez.
Which pushed me right past golden door. So
That's
and then my
incredible.
manager calls me and it was exactly like you said, hey, by the way, you hit golden door. And it was a aha, like that's awesome moment.
Yeah. No, that's one of the coolest things. It's kind of a funny contrast. It's like you take like pest golden doors. There's a ton of them this year and they all killed it. But it's funny because it's like that's their life. Yeah. It's like they're like, golden door is everything I think about, everything I do. Like I will hit this goal by the end of the summer. And it's funny because the window guys is like, oh, it's just a byproduct.
I'm just go on stage, It's like
I'm already working anyways.
Right.
But like, not to discredit the immense amount of hard work that it takes for every golden door winner, especially in Windows. But I love the work ethic that Windows culture has in that regard.
Hey, it's gonna happen anyway. You just got to work hard, right?
Yeah, you just plug and play.
If you get lazy, it's never gonna happen. So just work hard.
Exactly. Yeah. So now kind of stepping into like the tips and tricks of a window sale. What off of the top of your head right now, what are some of the initial tips and tricks that you'd give to a window salesman?
Honestly, I brought my brother-in-law into the company. He just became a closer as well. So he was able to meet all of the setter requirements, push past those, and then meet all of the closing requirements. So he's been doing a lot of the things to get there too. And I've just been training him. And a lot of it is just real nitpicky stuff. But the biggest thing, and it's the first tip that I just gave, is just having that contractor mentality. Like if you go in there as a salesman, you're really trying to sell them super, super hard. It just doesn't work as well. So if you go in there and your whole thing is like, I want to do the best thing I can for these people, help them out the best way I can, and then you use sales techniques, that's when it really becomes successful for you. So confidence is key. I think confidence is key whether you're in sales or not, right? But Confidence is huge, both on the doors and in appointments. You can't be in there and have someone ask you a question. Hey, is this going to be an issue? And be like, well, I mean, it could, maybe. Let me call my manager and figure that out for you. You know, a lot of it is going to be, no, we have the best installers. We have the best crew. We'll get you taken care of to the best of our ability. You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Right? It's being completely confident, because a lot of it's the vehicle too. If you're confident in your product, if you're confident in the installation of that product, you're confident in the customer service side of things, you don't have to be worried that your customer isn't making the best decision possible. So a lot of it's your buy-in and your confidence.
Mm-hmm. How does someone get bigger buy-in?
Honestly, one of my favorite things to do is to go and read our reviews, our 5 stars. Just like, hey, this customer said this customer said this. All right, here's a little tip. One of my favorite things to do at the end of an appointment, they've closed the deal, I want to leave them on a high note so that as I leave, they're stoked that they made the decision to buy windows with us. And I'll always say, hey, one of my favorite things is when the windows get installed is when a customer reaches out to me and sends me a picture or says how happy they are or whatever. And I get that a lot. And so customers will get their windows installed and they'll reach out and be like, Hunter, these windows look so great. I think just last week I had like a 90-year-old dude, and he calls me and he's just like, I'm not cold anymore.
I'm not cold anymore.
So I love that kind of feedback, but uniquely too, where I'm at now, where I interact with a lot of customers as the market owner in my office, is just nonstop. I'm seeing how happy customers are. They made the decision.
That's actually really cool. I love that. It's like I get more buy-in by reading my customer reviews.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of a flex a little bit. Like there's a lot of companies that be like, yeah, if I read those reviews, I'd probably quit.
Yeah, no. A big thing too, like one of my favorite things to do is for my sales team now, like I'll show them how cool our window is, and then immediately some of them will be like, yeah, I was talking to my mom about it and she's actually interested now, right? And then their parents buy windows. And it's just like, as soon as they're that bought in that they'll go sell their family on it without even trying, that's all of a sudden now they're our top performers on the doors. So buy-in is huge. It doesn't matter if it is pest or windows or solar or a million of the other sales, opportunities people have, and like positions. If you're not super bought in on your product, you're never going to be successful selling.
Yeah.
I'll just say that now. Like if you're not super bought in to the point that if you were a homeowner, you would make the same decision you're telling other homeowners to make, you shouldn't be selling it.
Absolutely. And big shout outs to Ellie Lopez, Robert Dorman, RC Thurston, boys at Legacy Windows for creating that kind of company. That's awesome. We could all learn a thing or two from that. That's awesome. So big shout out, you guys. And several Golden Door winners from Legacy Windows this year as well. So absolutely awesome to see that. So now kind of, diving in. So we got like some buy-in. We got a lot of, really great, tips as far as like that mindset goes. So as far as like the actual tactical sale, I know you talked about it's like, you had the mindset of like, I'm the contractor, like I'm the professional. It's like, I'm not the salesman. So that mentality pushing into a presentation, what does that look like?
Yeah, a lot of it's going to be, so when I'm showing our window, there's a couple of really key features that people get excited about. First of all is like the quality of the build of the product is huge. So a lot of people are thinking of the security of their home. I don't want water getting into the home, right? Or if they have seal failures with their previous windows, there's airflow problems. So you're talking about how our window won't have that problem. The energy efficiency side, there's just so many features. And what I'll typically do is I'll gauge the reaction homeowners are giving me to those features. So if I'm showing someone a specific feature, like I'll get people who are engineers, right? The dad's an engineer, the mom's a math teacher or something. I can tell they're a little bit more analytical. I'll be showing them a feature. I'll be like, yeah, our glass is made out of this PPG. It's next strongest on the strength rating to bulletproof. It's pretty awesome. And the dad will just be like, that is absolutely phenomenal. And he's sitting there. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then when I show a feature that typically most people get excited about, if I'm not sensing a lot of excitement, I'll still show the feature and explain the benefit, right? Feature benefit is huge. You never want to sell the feature. You want to sell the benefit, right? And so I'll show the feature, and if I'm not getting as much excitement, I'll still tell them the benefit, but I'm not going to like bank on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you want to push on the hot buttons.
I actually did pest control first year so I served an LDS mission, and I went out with a couple of buddies, did some pest control. And it's like, if someone's complaining about the bees or the hornets or whatever, you're not going to sell them on your spider spray. Right.
Yep.
So like if I'm with a homeowner and they're really excited about one of the features I'm showing about the window, I'm going to bank on that. even if it's not something I normally bank on, because most homeowners are excited about this feature, right? So it's the feature benefit layout. I mean, it's really huge to make sure that you're talking and selling the benefits that they care about.
Yeah.
And then moving on, one of my favorite things that I teach all my closers is if a customer decides not to go with it, let's say, right? You're not going to sell every
Of course.
contract. If a customer decides not to go with it, you want them to have buyer's remorse in the sense that they didn't buy. You want them to, when you leave their house, you want them to not feel stupid, but you want them to feel dumb for saying no. You want them to be bought in on the opportunity. So
Yeah.
a lot of it is me making it hard for someone to say no. This is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. Cost is a no-brainer. We'll take care of you. That's a no-brainer. And then at the end, it's like a lot of people, it's like they don't know how to say no because it's all just such a no-brainer for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into.
There's a lot.
You're building a house essentially. You lay the foundation.
Yeah.
You're laying and then it's impossible to topple that house over because it's so you've overcome everything beforehand.
Exactly.
I doubt are you getting very much like, oh, well, like I need to think about it, or like it's just really expensive. I just wasn't expecting it.
Really easy to get a lot of I think about it, except that in the beginning I set it up to where that's not an option. Hey, this is a finite opportunity. There's other people interested. There's only 1 or 2 people we're going to go with for this opportunity. So today I'm looking for a yes or a no. That's another way that like I always start off. That's the way that I was trained to start off the appointments. And so if I get to the end, someone wants to think about it, it's like, yeah, no worries. That wasn't an option. So it sounds like that's a no from you.
just keeping it simple.
Saying I want to think about it means that's a no is what I'm hearing. So no worries at all. Thank you for your time. I'll get out of the house. You guys were really nice. It's nice to meet you.
Did they push back on that?
Yeah, I've had people sit me back down. Well, hold on a second. And then, all right, we'll sign right here.
Well, what's sick is it's like you're not needy.
Yeah,
you're not like
all.
freaking out. It's like, oh, I need to think about it. Oh, well, that's a no then. See ya.
That's a
wait.
What I'm hearing is a no. So have a wonderful night. Thanks for having me here. And then, the wife will be like, Harold, hold on. We need to think about this, So it's huge how you set it up. Because if you set it up to where you're okay with people just calling you back, the amount of people who will call back versus the amount of people you can just push over the edge to make the decision is huge.
Yeah.
Right. And I've met no customers that are sad or upset that I push them over that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And that's really the mentality that like us as salesmen need to take is like, we're doing them a bigger disservice, not selling them.
Yeah.
Truly.
The people who I push over the hump where like a lesser salesman wouldn't have are the people who are grateful for me specifically. They're grateful that I push them over the hump because of the increase in quality of life.
Yeah.
And so I never feel guilty when I push someone over the hump, regardless of if it's that $9,000 or $80,000 decision.
Yeah. 100%. Which is awesome. I mean, it's cool to see like there's so much groundwork done in the sale that just helps it move along.
Absolutely.
And it just is, it's a very, and this is kind of the coolest thing about Windows, in my opinion, is a very plug and play system.
It is. It absolutely is.
Where it's like you follow the script, follow the program, follow all of this, and like you'll do well.
Yeah. And you got to make it your own too. I mean, I learned as I was training my brother-in-law to become a closer, I was training another closer at the same time. And this closer, me and him had a lot more of a similar personality. So the style worked really well for him. And it was really quick for him to just plug and play, like you're saying.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law, however, he had to kind of make it a little bit more of his own. And I had to train him slightly different. And now he's one of the best closers I have.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just cool
Love
that
that
you still have to make it your own. You still have to learn how to gain people's trust. I think humor is a huge tool. Like I like to read the energy in any room I'm in, and if I'm sensing the slightest bit of tension, even when I'm dropping price, I've got like a list of jokes that I'll say at different points in my presentation. If I sense tension, I've got a joke to plug, right?
Do you have an example? Like you can't tease me like that.
Oh, okay. Let's
putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, like I mean, when I'm showing the window, our windows are rated for really high speed winds, 180 mile per hour winds, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just at the end, I'll be like, so category 5 hurricanes is what they're rated for, since, here in Utah, we're super concerned about those. Like people will laugh at that. And then that's a good one. I feel like I've got better ones that I say when I'm actually in the appointment. I'm going to have to, I usually am on the spot with it too.
That's
I'd have to think about that a little bit.
still,
more.
but still, the principle though is important because humor relieves pressure more than anything else.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
it makes people feel comfortable.
Exactly. And it makes you look like a person, not a salesman, or because that's the biggest enemy to the salesman is the stigmas,
the commission breath, and the and
the desperation.
The desperation, exactly.
Yeah. How does one eliminate that?
For me, it's a mentality thing. I just if I'm so hung up on getting that one sale, and I like for instance, when I'm out knocking doors, if I only have one appointment for the day, obviously I'm kind of desperate that appointment closes. Right?
Yep.
But if I can go set 5, 6, 7 appointments, it's like, all right, you said no, it's fine. I'll move on to the next one. You said no as well. That's fine. I've got 5 more.
Yeah.
So there's no desperation from increasing the quantity and the quality of your appointments.
Yeah.
Right.
We got abundance
Mindset.
I love that.
That's how I tend to view life too. Like, just financially, I'm frugal. I've got a budget. I've got a game plan for savings and investments that I'm making and other financial opportunities that I'm providing for myself. But the thing is like, all right, unexpected $3,000 expense. That's fine. I've got more money on the way, right? It doesn't matter. Like the abundance mindset versus like pinch and pennies is just so huge. The difference there.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
As a salesman, you cannot, it doesn't matter if you got $100 in your bank account. You cannot have a lack of abundance mindset. You have to have there's always more to get there. And my work equals abundance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, gosh, it's fun how it's like, it is this very simplified approach. What are some of the biggest hurdles you think in the industry?
I think one of the biggest hurdles is people being in their own head about it. Like the lack of buy-in will be huge. If someone's not bought in on the product, they're not going to sell it. Which we've already kind of touched on. I feel like there's hurdles to, it's a little bit of a different system. We don't just knock and close during the summer. We do year round.
Yeah.
So it's a career for people. It's not just a get rich summer kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to both. I mean, doing it year long, there's a lot of consistency and the constant skill growth from that, but there's also a bit of burnout that comes. So an example, I was actually talking with my wife about this. We were just dating at the time when I was knocking doors. All right. Full disclosure, I'm a changed man. But when I was just brand new and I was setting, there were a lot of times where like I was bored knocking doors or I was able to get into the mindset where I loved it. It was fun to interact with strangers. It was fun to set appointments. Like there was all that, but there was also like the burnout side of it where I was a lazy 21-year-old who didn't really feel like knocking on doors and talking to strangers. Right. And I remember like there'd be days I'd be texting my girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife, but I'd be texting her like, yeah, I was kind of lazy today. I should have knocked for 5 hours, but I knocked for 2. I should have talked to, 50 homeowners and I talked to 15, right? Like there are a lot of days like that, but like now where I'm at, and I've only been in Windows for 2 years, 2.5 years now at this point. Now where I'm at, I can't even imagine just sitting in my car on my phone. Like it's like so different. Like I would never be that way. Right. And so it's been cool because me and my wife were talking about it. She's really seen the growth in myself as well, just between when we were dating and when I was knocking, and then when I became a closer, and then when we got engaged and I was highly performing as a closer. She saw a huge maturity and like a work ethic evolution in myself. Like there was a big transformation for me. And so a lot of people, the biggest handicap they have is themselves. Yeah.
It's definitely an identity shift.
It's a huge identity shift.
Because it's like the person that's going to be sitting in their car only knocking 2 hours when they should be knocking 5.
Right.
That's a different person than who you, like, I love how you're like, I wouldn't even think about doing that.
Well, she brought it up. My wife's a sweetheart. She's one of the biggest reasons I'm successful. Let me put that out there. She is absolutely the motivation for me to do everything. And we were just having one of our little discussions, and we're really proud of where we're at. We're buying our first house here in a couple months. And
yeah, that's right. Congratulations.
We're both young. I'm 24. She's 23. So, we're in that. We're grateful to be in, such a
I love that
prosperous position. But we were just talking about it, and she actually had to remind me that I used to be lazy, because she's like, it's just been really cool to watch you grow. I remember when you would tell me you didn't knock that day, and I was like, geez, like that feels like so long ago. I don't even feel like I would do that. But she's right. Like it's been cool to watch myself grow that way.
Yeah. What's been the number one factor in that growth?
I'd say there's a couple things, but I feel like I owe it to my God, my wife, and my family to be that kind of man.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Amen.
I've got a great example of a father who provides extremely well for my family when I was growing up. And I feel like every son aspires to be like their dad, right?
Yeah.
And like I just have a dad who's just so amazing in that sense that I too just feel like I owe it to myself and my wife and my future kids and my God, right?
Yeah.
That I become that sort of man as well.
Totally. It's amazing, like, you know, leveraging that.
Yeah.
And like helping, you know, your own growth.
Yeah,
in that
it's
regard.
big.
It's awesome.
Yeah, whether you got them now or whether they're in the future, kids are a huge motivation, man.
Oh yeah, it changes everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. Just as we kind of close up,
Sure.
What kind of like final words, parting words do you have for the industry as a whole?
I've probably got two things that I would share. The first one is, obviously we live in kind of an insane world right now with inflation and like all the different things going on like politically, and it's really easy to like pay attention to that too much and be worried about like the job security or like how, you know, like if the market crashes and people aren't willing to spend money, like, oh my gosh, is my industry going to survive? Or whether it's Windows, solar, pest control, alarms, whatever it is, right? Are people going to have the money where they want to invest in their home? Are they not? Are they going to care about bugs if they can't afford food? Like there's like all the, if things
uncontrollables.
If things get worse or if they stay the way they are, like no matter what, like with the political world. And the thing is like there were people knocking doors in the 1800s selling snake oil, right?
Yeah.
And then there was the Civil War, and then there was World War I, and then there was World War II, and then there was the Cold War, and there were 7 different recessions and whatever. Like the world is always doing what the world is doing. And during the Great Depression, there were more millionaires made than in other times in that, like before and after the Great Depression, right? Like it's always the people who are looking for opportunities, and they're creating themselves to be able to perform when that opportunity arises that become successful. So like my favorite definition of success is that success is when a prepared individual meets opportunity, right? And so if you're not preparing yourself, regardless of whatever the heck is going on in the world, if you're not preparing yourself, you could have the most amazing opportunity handed to you on a golden platter. You're not going to be successful.
Deep.
Right? So that's
mic drop moment right there.
That's my big thing. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like, prepare yourself regardless.
Definitely.
And then the other thing is set long-term and short-term goals, right? And have the things to back you. We just barely touched on it, but like my God, my wife, my family, who I feel like I owe it to myself. Yeah. Like those are all the things that, you know, I set the short-term goal of buying a house. I set the long-term goal of, you know, investing in all these things, financial freedom. Like you got to have all those goals and you've got to have steps to get there, but you also have to have the motivation to push you.
Absolutely. Well, Hunter, dude, thank you so much for hopping on.
Dude,
thanks for educating us on Windows and giving us some solid tips and tricks here.
Absolutely.
So, you know, well, your name is in the industry now, so we'll keep an eye on you and your growth in Dallas. So congratulations on Golden Door and on all your success to come, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks, brother.
Boom.